good afternoon. Welcome to This Is Now. We start today with a heads up about two press conferences happening later this afternoon. Now, the first one is at 3:15. This is happening with Governor Josh Green and the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra, who is visiting Maui to see how his department can help. Of course, we'll be carrying these news conferences live on your digital platform.
Then at 3:30, Maui County officials will be holding a press conference to provide an update on the wildfire disaster response. You can watch it on all HNN TV stations. Now, one of the topics that will be discussed is the introduction of the interim administrator for Maui's Emergency Management Agency. This comes after the former head, Herman Andaya, resigned, citing health reasons after receiving heavy criticism for defending his decision to not sound the emergency sirens. Now, officials will also give an update on their search efforts of the Lahaina area shoreline by the Maui Fire Department, as well as an update on the validated list of individuals who remain unaccounted for. Yesterday, the county released the names of 388 people who are still missing in hopes of gathering more information from friends and loved ones about their whereabouts.
The list was released Thursday night. In all, 388 people are still unaccounted for. It's far less than the previous count of more than 1,000 people reported missing. The list doesn't include ages or genders. Governor Green said the FBI consolidated multiple lists and weeded out duplicate names. 1,732 individuals who had originally been reported as unaccounted for have since been found safe. The names released are verified by the FBI and are names of people with a confirmed first and last name and a contact number from the person who reported them missing. Anxious residents demanded the county release a list sooner. In a pre-recorded video statement, Maui Police Chief John Pelletier says the county needed time to ensure the list was accurate.
We're also balancing that because we do know that once those names come out, it can and will cause pain for some folks that are affected by this. We are asking, if you're on this list, please contact the FBI number provided. If you know the person is safe, please contact the FBI number provided or email mpd@unaccounted@mpd.net.
Now, if you know a person on that list who is safe, or if someone you know is unaccounted for and their name is not on the validated list, you're urged to call the FBI office at 808-566-4300 or email mpd@unaccounted@mpd.net. You can see the names of the 388 people unaccounted for on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com. County officials are also encouraging those with missing loved ones to submit a DNA sample at the Family Assistance Center located at the Hyatt Regency Ka'anapali. They say those samples will only be used to help identify human remains and not for any other purpose. Meanwhile, the death toll remains unchanged since Thursday at 115. Crews have searched 95% of the impact zone. Right now, just under 3,000 evacuees are living in hotel rooms and nearly 800 are in Airbnbs.
Maui police also released the names of 8 more fire victims, including the first officially identified child. The latest victims are 61-year-old Todd Nakamura, 75-year-old Bernard Portabes, 73-year-old Betty Jo Dickman, 57-year-old Rebecca Rands, 70-year-old Fa'oso Tone, 73-year-old Malui Fonua Tone, 39-year-old Salote Tone, and 7-year-old Tony Takafua, all from Lahaina. We have a list of all the identified fire victims on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.
Well, Hawaii News Now sat down in an exclusive interview with the head of Hawaii's Emergency Management Agency to discuss the day the flames swallowed historic Lahaina town. Our Mahealani Richardson has the story.
Our priority at first was for life and safety, saving lives.
Major General Kenneth Hara, the state's incident commander, met with President Biden Monday in Lahaina's burn zone, the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history.
It was like a nuclear detonation.
He says cadaver dogs are now searching for remains in multi-story buildings. They must go meticulously, floor by floor. Hara says a team of investigators contracted by the Attorney General are beginning the planning process Thursday on how they'll conduct a review of the Lahaina disaster.
Everyone keeps saying it was an unprecedented crisis, unprecedented emergency, unprecedented disaster, and that's true.
Do you think the collective response contributed at all to the loss of life?
I don't think so, not at all.
Hara spoke to Hawaii News Now from the state's Emergency Operations Center in Wailuku. He says Maui County is in charge of the disaster response, with the state and federal government assisting. On Tuesday, August 8th, starting at 4:04 p.m., Maui County issued a series of digital media alerts calling for the immediate evacuation of several subdivisions, including Kulalani, Keleweamauka, and Wahikuli. Do you know why most people were not aware of them?
I cannot answer that.
With power and cell towers down, many say they didn't get those key warnings, adding to criticism about Maui's silent sirens. Do you think the lack of information contributed to the amount of deaths?
I don't know if it contributed to the amount of deaths. Like I said, that fire moved so rapidly. It's unfortunate, but this thing was blowing so fast, and the predictions of the winds were never anticipated to be that high.
Are you speaking today to defend the county's response?
Not at all, not at all. I'm here to tell the story, so I'm providing facts as I know it, facts that, I'm not trying to protect them, I'm not, trying to cover anyone's okole. I am not.
Mahea, first question to you. Can you tell us a little bit about why he decided to do this exclusive interview with you?
Well, he wanted to do the interview because he wanted to sit down with Hawaii News Now and talk about everything that he's seen and everything that the National Guard has done and the state has done since this disaster. It was really a wide-ranging interview, Dylan. We talked about what he saw in the burn zone, the smell of the bodies. He looked like he was really affected, and he said that it was something that you just can't prepare for. Dylan, this is a man who has faced several deployments. He's been with the military for several decades, and he has seen what war looks like. And so that was really striking. We also talked about what he was doing the day of the disaster. He was in this conference in Waikiki, and he was there. We questioned him in terms of what he was doing, and he said he was already getting information and trying to prepare for the county's request for help as soon as they got it.
Now, aside from what you already mentioned, were there any other major revelations out of this interview?
Well, what was really interesting that we saw in the story is that this investigation is happening now with the contracted investigators by the state's Attorney General. And it was really interesting because I repeatedly asked him if he was trying to defend the county. One thing was very clear. He wanted to make sure that we and the public knows that it is Maui County that is in the lead of this disaster. He repeatedly said that. I think the general public might not realize that. The general public basically sees government as an all-out response, whether it be Maui County, whether it be the state and the federal government. But one thing was clear. He wanted to make sure that those lines of communication started with the county first. Now, is this an attempt for the state to try to distance itself from Maui County? We don't really know. We already know that Maui County has already sued HECO, so it's really interesting to see these leaders now coming forward with their stories.
Now, walking away from this interview, was there any other outstanding questions that he couldn't answer, or maybe other questions that you yourself as a reporter are still trying to find some answers to?
Yeah, there were a lot of questions that were left unanswered. I asked him if he had seen the list, the list of the missing and unaccounted for. This is now still more than 1,000 people. He said he had not seen the specific names on the list and that he didn't know anyone specifically who was missing and unaccounted for. And so, that list is now being compiled by the FBI, but it's all the list coming together. He only knows that number. I asked him about the sirens issue, and he said he really couldn't talk about it. He said he may have made different decisions. That was Maui County's decision not to sound those sirens. He said he may have made different decisions if he was actually in the room, but he really can't say because he wasn't there. Also, I asked him, why were the roads potentially blocked? As we've been hearing over and over again, there was blockages of road and that there were hundreds of cars that were trapped. And he said that was really Maui Police Department's role. And so he was very clear to say what the state's role and what Maui County's role was. And as the state's role, he basically said that the state was already preparing for that first request in terms of helicopters and resources moving to Maui County. But he said that during that day, because of those high winds, those military helicopters just could not fly.
And Mahe, I understand you have one more story airing from this interview. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. Allison Blair had an investigation. We used some of the interviews so she could really piece together what happened that day. And also Jonathan Masaki, with his military experience, is going more in depth in terms of what the Guard is doing. We also know some Guardsmen lost their homes and they're still trying to help with this disaster. So it's really a wide-ranging interview, and we're trying to get all of it out, and you can see it online.
Our Mahealani Richardson, thank you so much for your reporting.
2 Maui firefighters are sharing their story of how they narrowly escaped death that catastrophic day. Chelsea Davis has more.
Firefighters take an oath to serve and protect their community, their family members, their friends, even strangers. And that's exactly what they did on August 8th. And they were prepared to fight, even until their death. It's a day that changed their lives forever. It's a day that Captain Jay Fujita thought was his last.
It's so hot in there. The heat just saps your energy. We were just so fatigued. I remember I was trying to even change my bottle, and I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even change my own bottle. I was so fatigued. And yes, I remember looking at the windshield, and the windshield of the truck was failing. And so I was pretty sure that if we stayed there, we weren't going to make it. So actually, they probably didn't even know, but I actually texted my family on my phone, say my goodbyes.
At the intersection of Lahaina Luna Road and Pauoa Street, Captain Fujita and his driver, Kavika Casco, says their fire engine got so hot they had to get out in the middle of a firestorm.
So when we decided to shelter in place and on that road, we did pull a line, try to protect ourselves with the water. The hose failed.
Sheltering in place is a firefighter's last resort. They all came to terms that they were going to die.
When the wind would lay down, it was just so hot. The ground was hot. Even to the touch, through your gloves, through your protective gear, it was just burning. So we just kind of sat there, pretty much, trying to wait it out.
As the flames started closing in on them, a sign of hope.
Then all of a sudden, out of the smoke, a police SUV rolled up, and one of our firefighter on the other crew that we were with, he opened the door and he's like, "Get in."
That was the moment Kavika and his captain realized they were going to survive. A moment of relief.
I'm just so happy, and second chance. Yeah, we all got a second chance.
That didn't last long.
It's just hard sometimes, like we got out and like a lot of people didn't, like friends' parents and
Casco, a born and raised Lahaina native whose family has lived in Lahaina for generations, says it hits him on a whole different level.
We were there. We tried as much as we could with what we had. We were there all night. We didn't sleep. I mean, I know there are a lot of community members there, friends that were up there in the smoke, that they were doing the same thing, pulling people out.
You can describe it as a worst disaster in the century. It's something different for us here because we usually win. Whenever there's fires, we usually win. We usually pull together and win. And this is the one that we didn't win.
These two heroes who dedicate their whole lives to protecting want the people of Lahaina to know they mourn with them.
If there's one community, Lahaina is going to get through it, and I will be there every step of the way to help, in whatever capacity I can to make that happen.
Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
And the tragedy, of course, is also taking an emotional toll on Maui residents. Casey Lund takes us to a new clinic that's focusing on mental health services.
There are no shortage of sad stories in Lahaina, but on the west side of town, a really positive one. This used to be an abandoned building just below the Civic Center. Now, a functioning health clinic, no insurance needed. Let's take a look inside.
We stood this up in about a week, had to clean everything.
DOH public health nurse Heidi Taogoshi gave me a tour. The clinic offers things you expect: wound and burn care, first aid, mobile and in-person pharmacy services. They even have specialists like optometrists and soon to come dentistry. One service she's especially proud of that's offered to wildfire victims and really anybody who needs it: behavioral and mental health care.
Medical, physical health is definitely tied to the behavioral mental health side of things. So what we're trying to do here in this center is make it a full service center where people can come, anybody can come regardless of insurance and get the help they need. So we have great community partners. John and I are both from the State Department of Health, but really it's our local community providers, small businesses that are really supporting this effort here at this center.
Heidi's talking about John Oliver, the behavioral health administrator for the Maui County branch of the Department of Health.
And what we're hearing from people that have called us some too is saying, well, I don't think my needs are as important as others who maybe have lost, their home, but all of our needs are important and they all need to be met. And so it will impact individuals in different ways and no person is the same. I can't stress enough how important it is that as soon as you start to feel this way, or start to have these kind of emotions, is to reach out and get help right away. It only gets worse if you keep it bottled up and you let it keep growing inside you.
Taogoshi says the DOH did not do this alone. They have amazing community partners that help make the clinic what it is now. Groups like Hui no Ke Ola Pono. Caregivers like Ashley Tone go out in the community and even door-to-door in West Maui resorts, where many displaced Lahaina residents are now living. She and her team work hard to make a difference for people that would otherwise be isolated. They visit those people with Hawaiian Airlines carts filled with snacks and other items to cheer them up.
You may not even have friends or family there, but it affects everyone. With the initial shock kind of wearing off, everyone's in these really nice rooms, but in isolation with nothing but their thoughts. And so, how do we kind of break them out of those maybe negative mindsets? And so we have these carts that were generously donated from Hawaiian Airlines, and we knock on doors and bring snacks or drinks, just anything to help kind of break up their silence.
One more reminder, you don't need insurance to take advantage of this clinic. They're offering more and more services all the time, including optometry, dental coming soon. We have all the information to make an appointment. You can also just come on down, but find those details at hawaiinewsnow.com. Reporting in Lahaina Town, Casey Lund. Now I'll send things back to you.
Thank you so much, Case. Lots of important work going on there on the Valley Isle. All right, let's take a live look outside. This is Toronto Harbor in Canada, where the temperature is a wonderful 71 degrees on this Aloha Friday. Looks like there's a balloon there on the right. So what's in store for your weekend? Let's send it over to the guy who knows it, Guy Hagi.
How's it on this Friday? The weather's not going to change in any significant way over the weekend. If anything, just a few minor tweaks, lighter winds and a few more windward and mucus showers. And that's what we're seeing this morning. We're seeing those showers come in to a handful of windward spots, a few more showers this morning than what we had yesterday. We'll gladly take it considering the drought situation across the state. Now, those winds will be running pretty firm today, easing up over the weekend to about 10 to 20. But at least we'll have that trade wind breeze. So that means humidity levels will be on the low side. There's still a chance for, brush fires to flare up. So heads up on that. And then again, we're not going to see a lot of rain, especially for leeward sides, which will remain mostly dry. Surf's going to remain mostly small. Not a whole lot going on. No significant swells expected anytime soon. Perhaps a little bit of something coming in next week. So again, breezy winds probably through tomorrow, and look for a slight boost in those windward and mucus showers tomorrow and Sunday. It's going to be drier again on Monday. And starting on Monday, starting on Sunday, the winds back off for a couple of days, and then they come bouncing back on Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Guy. In national news, former President Donald Trump has turned himself over to authorities in Georgia, and the nation has now seen his infamous mugshot. He's now using that as a part of his campaigning for the 2024 presidential election. Natalie Brand has more from Washington, D.C.
It's former President Donald Trump's fourth criminal indictment, but his first time having a mugshot taken.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
He arrived at the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta Thursday to be booked on charges that he and 18 co-defendants schemed to reverse his 2020 election loss in Georgia.
We have every right, every single right, to challenge an election that we think is dishonest, that we think is very dishonest.
In an interview with Newsmax, the former president called his booking a terrible experience, but it hasn't kept him from selling mugshot merchandise on his campaign website. He also returned to X, formerly known as Twitter, for the first time since being banned in January 2021. He posted his booking photo, writing, quote, "I will never surrender our mission."
While Trump is fundraising off this latest indictment, he's also taking the Georgia charges very seriously. His legal team now includes Atlanta-based lawyer Stephen Sadow, who specializes in high-profile defense cases.
CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman has tried cases alongside Sadow.
When he speaks, believe me, you turn and listen. In terms of strategy, he is also aggressive.
Overnight, former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark was among those who turned themselves in ahead of a deadline today. The 19 co-defendants could be arraigned as soon as next month. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Access to an abortion pill is being ensured here in Hawaii. The State Department of Health announced an agreement with Kapiolani Medical Center to make sure women can continue receiving mifepristone. It's used for medical abortions to end a pregnancy that is less than 10 weeks along. Earlier this year, a Texas judge ruled to suspend FDA approval of the drug, but the Supreme Court later issued a stay. Hawaii's Attorney General said then that she was committed to protecting access to the pill. Under the agreement, the state will reimburse the hospital for unused doses.
Back here on Oahu, 2 people and both of their dogs had their Makiki home destroyed by a fire Thursday afternoon. HFD responded to the third-story apartment on Pensacola Street just after 4 p.m. The residents were not home at the time, but firefighters did find the 2 dogs, who thankfully survived. Crews extinguished the fire within 15 minutes and kept it from spreading to other apartment units. No one was injured. The American Red Cross is assisting those displaced. The cause of the fire is not yet known. And let's end today with a live look over beautiful Honolulu. As a reminder, the Hawaii Food Bank Food Drive is happening this weekend. You can find more details on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.